Hey everybody, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be going through one of my last camera's SD cards that I pulled down. It's mid-December here in Minnesota, and I'm pretty excited to show you guys this card. I scrolled through the thumbnails. There's a couple really good bucks on here. I also want to talk a little bit about why I put my mock scrape where I did on this stand. And this is one of my better public land spots. And I thought it would be worth just rolling through these with you guys so you can see kind of some of the areas that I hunt and then again, some of that strategy behind why I think this spot is as good as it is. So with that, we'll get started. So we're starting out on October 30th here. This is an afternoon shot. I actually put my camera out earlier than this fall, but this is when this particular card pull went back to. So it looks like we got a yearling buck here. You can see that I've got a mock scrape right here. I actually kicked this open myself and put a little bit of scent on this. It's I like the synthetic buck fever synthetics. That's what I use. Maybe I'll put a link down below if you guys are curious. But I like to hit my mock scrapes, especially in big woods or public land settings, with a little bit of juice, just to get the deer fired up a little bit, get them intrigued and kind of curious with this. These, typically you're dealing with lower deer densities in these types of areas, and so in those bigger chunks of woods on public land, there is a food source down or kind of to the east of this spot. It's a standing crop field, and so the area that I have this mock scrape in is set up in a doe bedding area. Or at least that's my understanding of this. I've found beds in there. I've found a lot of droppings and a lot of deer work this area. So again, they're kind of traveling over towards that food and then coming back. And this particular fall, that crop was standing the whole year, so all the way into December. So it really shows. So with that, we'll dive right in. Yearling buck working that scrape, which is kind of cool. Right off the bat here, we got a nice, I think this is a 10-pointer. Hitting the scrape. Really good width on this one. Man, long main beams too, that's cool. Looks like he's got little G4 points, but nice 2s and 3s. And that was on, just gonna go back one. That was on October 30th at about 11 p.m. Now the next morning, this is Halloween morning at 11 a.m. This buck comes through. This is a different buck. That's crazy. So the night before, that big 10, and then the next morning, another really good 10. This is later that afternoon on Halloween. We have what looks like maybe a 2-year-old 8-point. He came in, man, so these bucks are just circling this scrape right now. Looks like a yearling buck right there. That 10 came back through. This is a good buck. This is a really nice 10-pointer here. You can see he's got pretty deep neck. It's a mature buck, really good buck. Okay, here he's pushing a doe around. Now it's November 3rd, middle of the night. That's kind of cool. You can see how he's just pushing that doe all around through here. There he is. This is all the same buck. Nose to the ground. Look at that. November 3rd, middle of the night. Oh, that's kind of crazy. What in the world? It's like he's trying to get that preorbital scent way up on that branch as high as he can get it. This is all that same 10-pointer. Big neck on him. Just standing over that scrape. That is wild. So he was pushing a doe around in here, middle of the night on November 3rd. We had a deer running. There he is again. That's that same 10. Okay, later that night. 9 at night on November 3rd. Looks like a little bit of precip here coming down. That's a different buck. That's a nice buck there. Tall G2s. That's a really good buck. Wow. So now it is the next day. It's November 4th now. Looks like maybe a fawn right there came in, checked out the mock scrape. There's a yearling buck. Something running. That's where, that might have been a buck pushing a doe, but I had the delay set on my camera I had a few minutes delay in between just so that if a buck were to come by and see those glowing IRs and he looks towards the camera, I don't want it to keep taking pictures so he knows there's a camera there. But there might have been a buck behind that doe that was running. What was that? Looks like maybe a coyote or something right there. Interesting. Man, really good daylight activity so far early on, kind of in that Halloween, in that first few days of November. Some yearling bucks cruising in. We're at November 8th now. Another yearling buck. A lot of yearling bucks in this area, which is encouraging because we had a super tough winter last year. Really deep snow. The deer were really struggling around here in the part of the state where I'm at. So I'm encouraged to see all these yearling bucks. There's a good buck there. Now I don't actually know which one this is. This is November 10th, so there's a little bit of a gap here. This mock scrape really kind of went cold as far as daylight activity on those big boys. Kind of went cold from about November 3rd or 4th all the way till November 10th. There was about a week in there, 6 days or so. This is the next daylight buck here. That's a really good one. That's a great buck. 3:30 in the afternoon on November 10th he came by. A little bit of snow on the ground, that's neat. Looked like a yearling buck just moved through there. Precip coming down on the 11th, middle of the night. That's a cool picture there. Yearling buck in the snow. Little Y buck right behind that one. November 11th, kind of mid-morning. Okay, on the 11th, 1 p.m. So this is the third buck on November 11th that has come through here, right by my mock scrape. This looks like it's probably a 2-year-old little 8-point. I think that was a doe right there. Yeah, I think that was actually a doe. Cool pictures. I love these photos with the snow on the ground. Another yearling buck, amazing. I'm impressed with the number of yearling bucks. I think some of these are the same now. That I recognize that little Y buck. There's a big one there. November 11th at 10:30 at night. Real heavy looking beams, heavy looking tines. That's cool. Oh, this is that same 10 from early on with the real little G4s. Okay. Beautiful buck there. I hope he survives the rest of the winter here. Man, these yearling bucks, that's cool. There's a nice doe right there. Little fawn came through, so something running. Okay, a yearling buck looks like it was pushing that doe around. There's a doe moving through, that's cool. Falling snow, nice doe there. There's that little Y buck. I'm starting to recognize these yearlings. It's the same ones over and over. November 15th, so quite a bit of time's going by now. Things are looking a little bit cooler. One thing that's interesting I've noticed is the does are showing back up. Once we got past about November 10th, suddenly I'm seeing these big mature does again suddenly, which from about Halloween until November 10th or 12th, I don't think there was hardly a single doe on camera here. I wonder if that's because the bucks were harassing them so bad and they finally got a chance to, maybe they've been bred and now they can come out and with some peace and quiet in this area. So again, there's a nice buck. That's a really good buck. I think that was one we've seen before. So this is the 16th of November, real late in the evening, real nocturnal, beautiful buck. Big neck on him. Look at the shoulder and neck in there. You can tell these are super heavy antlers on this thing. I'm using a Browning camera. I actually kind of like this camera. I was a little skeptical at first, but I think it's doing a good job. Here's that same 2-year-old, just a good 2-year-old 8-point on the 17th at 3:30 in the afternoon. Cool shots in the snow like this. So here they're going over. I'm betting this trail that you're seeing here is where they're heading over to that crop field. So again, I'm on public land right here. There's private nearby. I'm back off the line a ways. I'm not going to sit right on somebody's line, but back in a public land area that you need hip boots to cross a big swamp in order to access. That's the only access back here. So it's a cool area. I haven't been bothered by too many other people thus far. Hoping to keep it that way. We'll see. Nice 8-point right here. Beautiful buck coming through middle of the night. Yeah, so there's a lot more daytime does I'm seeing. Now we're getting into kind of the mid/late November, right before Thanksgiving. There's that nice point. And I'm noticing the does are back. That's a good buck. That's a real good buck right there. Something running through. Oh, coyote. That's probably what's chasing them around. There's more does. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? These does come and hit these mock scrapes too. That's a big mature doe right there. I've always found that pretty cool. It's that you can see that it's just a communication tool, that mock scrape between bucks and does. We're getting, oh, there's that nice 8-point, nice daylight photo of him on the 21st at 4:40 in the evening. Very cool. Man, if he survives, he could be very nice next year. It looks like he may even be starting to split on his G2 there. Yearling buck. Working that scrape, something running, big doe, big mature doe. There's that nice 8. He's starting to show up with some regularity now in this area. 9:37 a.m. Coming back from the food, heading back into the bedding. It's the cool thing about, I think that's that earlier 10 that I had on Halloween that was dogging that doe around. That's kind of cool, 2:30 in the morning. This public land piece that I'm on, it's real thick hazel brush, kind of older timber you can see. I believe that deer are coming back and bedding where I'm at on the public. And then they're going in to feed on that private area that probably it's more than a quarter mile away where that crop field is that I know of. You can see from the road. And oh yeah, I think this is that same 10 from early on with the real little G4 points. Very cool. He looks like he might not even be that old of a buck. Although his nose looks good. Tough to say, I guess. He could be real exhausted and worn down from the rut. November 24th in this photo. A lot of nocturnal photos, though, I'm noticing as we get later into the year. Don't want to fawn. Yeah, a lot of nocturnal. Oh, that was kind of cool. A yearling buck just hit that scrape. Another yearling buck coming to check it out. You can see all the snow getting kicked away, so they're still using this scrape even on November 26th. This is a couple days after Thanksgiving now. There's that 2-year-old 8-point, still working the scrape. Yep, hitting it good there. Look at that snow kicked away on the scrape on November 28th. Some good daylight activity still, but I'm noticing a lot more nocturnal. There's a little fawn there. Yearling buck. Big doe. Beautiful deer. They're using this trail pretty good. If this crop hadn't been standing or if they'd have harvested or flipped over the field to black dirt, I probably wouldn't have had this kind of success here at this spot. I actually didn't hunt this spot this year. As you guys know, I shot that beautiful 10-pointer on my homestead land, so I didn't even get a chance to hunt this. But I'm thinking next year, if I don't tag out on the homestead property here, this is going to be a key spot as long as that crop is still good and it's something they want. There's that 2-year-old 8-point working that scrape on November 29th. That's very cool. 2-year-old 8, same one. Something running. Yearling buck. A little more snow coming down. Look at that. Couple of yearling bucks sparring over the mock scrape there. Two-year-old. Beautiful buck there. I'm going to go back one, just quick look at that one. Beautiful 8-point, nice tall G2s. I think we saw him earlier. Smelled that branch on the mock scrape. Something running. I think we're getting close to the end now. Very cool. A lot of activity on this. Okay, they're starting to just a train. There's a coyote. There's a dirty coyote right there. But I swear between those and the timber wolves, these deer don't get a break around here. There's those yearlings. I think we're about at the end of this now. There's those yearling bucks. And you know, one of the things I just wanted to talk about on this mock scrape is just the fact that I actually made this. this was not a primary scrape that was there, you know, that the deer made. Beautiful buck right there on November 4th, middle of the day. Nice 8-point. This was not a mock scrape that the deer created. I created this myself, and it worked out. And the reason that I believe this worked out is, number one, you can see the trail that these deer are on right here, because I know on that private land there's a concentrated food source. This particular piece of public land ends up with a lot of deer beds in it. It's tough to access for other hunters, and so that's why I like this. You guys can see there's also a trail kind of running towards us, towards the camera, that crisscrosses this trail that runs left to right. And so that's why I put this mock scrape here, and I got my bow stand about 20 yards and gun stand about 20 yards from this actual location right here. And it just works, it just sets up so nice. And I really believe that had I put this mock scrape, you know, just on a random trail or somewhere else, it wouldn't have had the productivity and use that this one gets. And you know, with these mock scrapes, it's one of those things where if you know, if you just put one in a random ridge in the woods, it's probably not going to work. They probably won't adopt it. It needs to be at that confluence, at that crossroads of activity. That's what I found here, and that's why I think this one is so good. I just love this hunting spot. You know, one of the other key takeaways that I'm noticing when I look at these pictures is I had a lot of daytime activity early on around that Halloween, first couple days in November, big bucks, those 2 Big Tens. Then things kind of went nocturnal, at least on the mock scrape. And I wonder if as we got closer to that bell curve of peak breeding, you know, they're not using these scrapes as much. So I wonder if just because of where this camera is, I wasn't able to capture all of those daytime bucks that were chasing does, dogging does, and breeding does. You can just see that this mock scrape is geared for more of that ramping up, leading right up to the peak of the breeding. And then once we get into the top of the bell curve, it's like those daylight pictures drop off, and I believe that's because those bucks are pushing does around in the brush, and they're not actually on these mock scrapes as much. Now, does that mean you can't kill one on a mock scrape during the peak breeding? Of course not. I still think this is a great spot. I know that does bed in here, and this is a spot I can hunt all rut. It's also a spot that I don't think it's even worth me going in there till close to Halloween, because I've ran cameras in here and mineral sites in years past, and you know, all summer there's hardly any deer in here. It's really not used much. It's once we get into that rut time, those does use this as a bedding area adjacent to that private land and the food that's on it, and then the bucks show up too as a result. So it's a really cool spot. It gets really good during the rut, and I just stay out of it until that time, so I'm not educating anything. So anyways, that was one of my better card pulls from this year, you guys. I wanted to share with you a little bit about the logic behind why I put my camera where I did, and then some of the deer that we saw. These are just cool bucks. I love looking at these big public land Minnesota bucks. I hope you guys do too. If you guys have any questions about my setup, any other considerations, or you want to learn more about why I picked the places I did, feel free to just drop me a comment down below in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button on the video if you liked it. Think about subscribing to my channel if you guys like whitetail strategy like this. And until next time, you guys, take care.